Hello, everyone. Good evening. How are you doing? Good evening, everyone. How are you doing? Thank you, everyone, for joining this session, especially on a Sunday evening. Okay, it's not easy to do it. So, yeah, thanks a lot for joining. We'll just be starting in a couple of minutes. We'll just be starting in a couple of minutes. We have Rahul here. Rahul, hi. Welcome to this session, and thanks a lot for taking your time to join this session. Rahul, can you hear me?
Yeah, somehow the voice is echoing.
Okay. Is it better now?
Yeah, it's better.
Cool, cool, cool. Hey, hi Rahul. Thank you for taking out the time to join the session.
Hey Gaurav, I think it's still echoing. There's some delay, I think. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Just a minute. Just a minute. Give me some time. Can you mute yourself once, please?
Yeah.
Hey Rahul, is it any better now?
Yeah, it's better now. Hey Vikas, yeah. First of all, thanks for inviting me. I'm extremely delighted to be here.
It's a pleasure for us, and it's very rare that people can join on a Sunday evening to share their experience, especially for our students. So yeah, that is even more special for us. Cool.
Yeah, it's an honor.
Cool. I see our students have already started commenting. Hi, hello everyone. Yes, we were waiting for you. Okay, great. Eagerly waiting, sir. Great. Cool. Thank you everyone for joining. How is it going? How is it going with your preparations? How is it going with the classes? Students of Geekster, how is it going with the classes? Students not from Geekster, how is your preparation going on? You can You can keep typing your answers in the chat. Okay, we will love to get your responses. Cool. So we will just be starting our major discussion in a minute. But first of all, I let me just set the agenda for today. So in today's session, we are going to talk about the complete roadmap to become a backend developer. Okay. And along with me in this session, I have an industry expert and my friend Rahul Shrivastava. Rahul is a software engineer at Confluent. Before this, he has worked with companies like Goldman Sachs and DirectI. And Rahul has great experience as a full stack developer. He has worked on the front end, he has worked on the back end, and he's here to share his experience with us. Rahul, welcome again. Uh, Before starting, would you want to talk about your journey, like from college? Which college were you from? What was your branch? And up till Confluent, how has your journey been so far?
Yeah, sure. So I passed out in 2015 from NIT Bhopal, and I did my graduation in electronics communication. So it's a bit different. I mean, coming to the IT industry.
Yeah.
So I mean, during second year, I somehow realized that I'm more interested in programming rather than doing the embedded systems and all.
Okay.
So yeah, so I gradually like started learning Python, C, those languages. And in third year, I started learning data structures, algorithms, because that was something very important to track the IT companies.
Yes.
And yeah, that's how I mean it all started. And I joined Direct Type, where I was working as a front-end developer. So I did some bootcamp courses and all.
Okay.
To get to learn all this stuff, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So I think like it's comparatively bit easier to crack a front end interview as compared to backend.
Okay.
I mean, it's my personal experience. I'm
Yeah.
not sure what
Sure, sure.
others' opinions are.
Okay.
Yeah, so uh, that was sort of like my strategy to get into good product-based company.
Great.
So yeah, so there basically at that time a lot of frameworks like Backbone JS, Angular was very popular. So I got a hold of the front end development. I worked on different products over there. So I was part of Media.net. We worked on some of the products by Zeta Suite uh, applications. So
Great.
it are both internal as well as customer facing. Uh, then I got some opportunity to work on backend to create APIs which power those dashboards, those UI applications, and that's how uh, I started my contribution on the backend side of things. So I was more interested because there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of scale. Uh, the entire like business logic actually lies on the backend. So then, gradually I picked the Node.js. So it's very much. It uses JavaScript. Okay, it's quite
Right.
similar. So Express.js was a framework that we used that time. Node.js plus MongoDB, as a database to power
Hmm.
the APIs. So yeah, that's where my backend journey, I say, it's started. Then I moved to Goldman Sachs, where also, I was working as a full stack developer, building like sort of end-to-end applications. So the beauty, of the full stack is uh, you create your own API contracts and you create your own requirements for the front end, right? So
You're
you
right.
own the entire stuff end to end.
Right.
Yeah, so I worked there for around 2 to 3 years. Then, I recently joined Confluent. It has been 1.5 years, half years over here. It's a Kafka-based company. Cloud provider on top of Kafka. Yeah. So that was pretty much.
Great. Okay. So mostly you started as a front-end developer and then you
Yeah.
transitioned to be a back-end developer.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that is great. So how hard was it for you to transition from a front-end to a back-end development?
Uh, yeah, it was somewhat challenging because the pace of the software industry is, very quick. Things change. At a pretty strong pace. When I joined the IT industry, I was like, just 2 to 3 years of hard work, then I would be somewhat established. Like our previous generation is right. Uh,
Right.
Things don't change that rapidly. But in the IT industry, the front end stack, things change
Right.
each and every day. The version change, like the Angular version from 1 to 2, it was totally different, right? Then
Absolutely.
the plethora of frameworks, the React JS, Vue.js, okay, all those things coming, different coding paradigms coming. So it's a bit hard to catch up with the things. And so basically, I had to prove my manager that I can do whatever you assign to me on the front end. And in the free time or the spare time when I have bandwidth, I can contribute on the backend side of the things because I was mostly hired as a front end developer there, right? So
Right.
I had to like stress somewhat to learn backend. But yeah, once already had the coding background and good, I would say collaboration with my team members. So I got those tasks, and being within a company, the transition is somewhat easy, I would say. But if
Right.
you like want to directly directly switch and give the interviews, then it's pretty hard because within a team, like team members have already have a trust on you. Okay, so you get some small tasks, you get the help from them also. So
Hmm.
it's somewhat easier transition in that way. And if you're working on JavaScript, then JavaScript is everywhere. It's
Right.
on the
Right.
mobile
Absolutely.
application, front end, back end. So that made the things easier for me.
Absolutely. Yes. Got it. Okay. Someone is asking, will the video have Q&A session? So yes, guys, this is a live session going on. Whatever questions you have, just keep asking your questions in the chat and we'll keep picking them in between. Okay. Meanwhile, I also have a lot of questions that I want to ask Rahul. Rahul has a lot of things that he wants to share with you all. So that we'll keep doing. Okay. Cool. So, Rahul, by the way, in the last 7+ years that you have been working, so how have you seen the tech industry changing in India or globally? What changes have you seen?
Yeah, I mean, the changes have been, pretty at a strong pace, I would say. I mean, I would go 10 years back, 2000, right? I mean,
Hmm.
the World Wide Web boom. Okay, I mean,
Right.
everything started coming on the internet. I mean, that was the period where the largest transition occurred. A lot of applications which we use today, like YouTube, Facebook, a lot of like search engines. The
Google.
modern search engines.
Yeah.
Google, also became popular.
Right.
Uh, okay, so in the next, decade, like 2011 to 2020, uh, I mean, IT started, moving to different sectors. Okay,
Right.
be it be it pharma, be it like infrastructure, be it any domain. I mean, if you like just search for a IT opening, you'll see like a lot of companies who are not like software domains, but
Right.
have openings for the software industry, right? So
Right.
software has its penetration everywhere. I would say,
Hmm.
and that is this is what happened at least like in this decade. I mean.
Also,
Whether like the
e-commerce
e-
boomed completely in this decade, I believe.
yeah, exactly. I mean that was the biggest thing.
Right.
And the things have became like very data driven, I would say. I mean 10 years back it was not so much data driven, not so much still, but if you see like at least like when the COVID started,
Hmm.
all these e-commerce, like you are at your home and you have to buy grocery, you have to order online food, or you have to buy medicines. You're doing everything from your home, right? Even
Absolutely.
the work from home culture is started,
Right.
from the remote work culture. Work from home was already there, but the remote work culture, you
Right.
are communicating with people, across the zone with your team members, just, only on the Zoom. I have worked previously in my company. I haven't met my manager, in person. It's all,
Hmm.
online communication. And that is all powered by tech, right? So
Right.
that's the power of it. And the data is immense, and the traffic is huge. So a lot of companies, these days are looking not for just a developer, but for a seasoned developer who can build the things on scale, performant, no chances of like major downtimes. Because like if your application having downtime, it's now a big thing. Okay, like Facebook and Google, if they're downline, it just comes in the news, right? So they can't afford these things. So yeah, those things
Got it.
have changed. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And in general, in terms of opportunities, salaries, or tech stack, there also has the or technologies. There
Yeah, yeah,
also, yeah. How has the change been in that way?
yeah. When I was graduating in 2015, it was, in India, the companies in India, or even the MNCs that have like offices in India, they're not paying that much as compared to their US counterparts or the European counterparts.
Right,
But quite recently, the things have changed. This somewhat, I would say, normalization, not exactly, but
right,
like at least in Bangalore region, people are getting quite high paid. Uh, Somehow like you can compare with the salaries in the US counterpart.
I
At
agree.
that point of time, yeah, the average package from the like tier one companies was like around 20 LP, right? And if it was 1 CR plus, it was mostly out of India. It never happened within India. But I think these days, like 2 CR, 3 CR, it's possible in India, in Bangalore itself. I'm not sure
Absolutely,
about Delhi, but or Pune or those locations, but at least in Bangalore, it's
absolutely. Yeah,
quite
yeah.
on the higher side.
I see the same trend, almost the same trend in NCR also, especially in Gurgaon area. So yeah, I totally agree with you. Cool.
So yeah, so you don't need to. I mean, if you want to stay in India, then this is definitely opportunity. I mean, otherwise it's your preference. There's no, I mean, constraint on the on the compensation, I would say.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. So, okay. So in general, if let's come back to backend development.
Yeah,
So in general, in your experience as a backend developer, what are the tech stacks that you have worked on? By the way, you already mentioned that you started with Node and Express, but
yeah, yeah,
apart from that, any other languages that you work with?
yeah. So I mean, I in addition to Node.js, it is Java, which like I have mostly worked upon. Uh, on Java, like Spring Boot, Hibernate.
Hmm.
Recently, I started with the reactive paradigm, which is RX Java, using
Okay.
frameworks like Vertex. Uh, yeah, and on the database side, like I've worked both on the relational versus non-relational database. So relational database like MySQL, Microsoft SQL Server, Postgres. Like I really like Postgres, which is sort of like a hybrid one. You can have the NoSQL flavor as well as a SQL flavor. Then on the NoSQL side, like I have worked on MongoDB, on Firebase, on Cassandra. Yeah. I mean, Redis I mostly use as a caching layer, but I see like few people use it as a database also.
Got it, got it. So, I mean, okay, one more thing. So we are talking about caching, we are talking about deployment and everything. So what exactly is a backend developer? Let's talk about that in detail. So in some people think that backend layer is just Java or Node where you write the business logic and you write the APIs.
Hmm.
So and then in many companies when we say backend, it includes the databases also, the SQL queries or the MongoDB queries. And then in many cases, it also has includes caching. Also includes maintainability, scalability,
Hmm.
your
Hmm.
deployment, all of that. So what exactly is backend developer? Is everything covered in it, or it depends from a company to company, or what exactly it is? How?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I mean, a superset of all those things that you mentioned. Uh, but mostly, I mean, the in the companies I have seen, like if you know the REST API development, then I mean, you can basically crack an interview. Okay, REST API
Hmm.
development is something which is quite common across different companies. This is a skill which you should definitely know, being a
Right.
backend developer.
Absolutely.
Okay, and I mean, if I take an example of any application, maybe say Facebook. Okay, so you access Facebook from your mobile device through an Android or a iOS app. Okay, also from the website. Okay, so whatever the end user, I mean, you as a user, you see on the screen, that is front end, okay? Maybe a mobile application on the
Absolutely.
website, okay? And whatever powers it at the background, okay? That is, I mean, that whole space is backend that we are not
Backend.
able to see, okay? So there are a lot of things, right? Suppose like you send a friend request, then how the notification is sent to that other person, okay? That entire business logic, you just do a button click on the UI or on the mobile app, right? The entire business logic that actually triggers a notification to that user and stores the state that the request has been sent. Okay, when that user adds you as a friend, then whatever all the other things happens, like you have the access to that person profiles and the details. Okay, so all
Right.
these business logic, I mean, is on the back end. The huge number of things, I mean, that happens over there. Definitely, I mean, there needs an API. Okay, when you did that action, then how Facebook server actually knows that you want to add that friend. Okay, because you are just
Hmm.
on your mobile device, right? So a request basically goes to the Facebook server. Okay, and through an API. Okay, that will be an HTTP API. So there itself, the HTTP API comes into picture. Okay, so the request goes over there, and they might have some database layer where they store your state as a user, right? So they just alter your state, okay, in their database layers, and as well as the other users whom you're trying to interact. Maybe they
Hmm. Hmm.
and they basically trigger a notification. So there might be a different dedicated service that triggers a notification, the push notification to those users. Okay, so
Right.
all these things. happen, I mean, on the backend. Then, so on the backend, you basically have to manage, I mean, all these data. Okay. And
Correct.
in a secure or authorized way, like whatever you are seeing your profile, other users shouldn't be able to see the messages that are on your profile and other, I mean, private information on your profile, right? So how to basically authenticate you, authorize you. So all these, I mean, business logic is on the back end. Plus, I mean, how Facebook wants to store the data. Suppose a user is not active for like 10 years or 5 years. Okay. So it's just, I mean, extra data on the Facebook server for which, I mean, they are paying. Okay. So their resources are being utilized. So they just want to clear this data, remove this data, or put it into from the warm storage to cold storage. Okay. Just for the auditing purpose. So all this data management. Okay. This is also a backend. Then there would be some analytics on top of this data. Okay. I mean, the recommendations, I mean, from your user behavior, like you're scrolling, you're doing some likes, you're doing some comments based upon your user behavior. Facebook recommends you certain ads. Okay. The way it monetizes it. So there's a lot of data analytics on top of it. I mean, it's a slightly different domain. It's a data science domain.
Right.
But there's some overlapping layers. I mean, okay. So there are some data engineers who basically manage this data. That also at times comes under backend development space. Okay. Then there are some engineers who basically just work on top of this data to build the recommendations. They build certain models to basically give this recommendation. So those are like data scientists. Those don't actually come under the backend development. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty huge space. And if you are in any company, I mean, as a backend developer, then you might be expected, I mean, to uh, to do, I mean, all these different things, right? You can work on the authentication layer, you can work on the API authorization layer, you manage the data, you can be expected to do anything. So I mean, but I think one thing that links all these things are some of the like principles, some of the like design principles that you should basically understand. And it's somewhat like language agnostic, that you should actually know all these principles, so that like anything on the backend development just comes into a plate. You are able to like thought process, think through it. Even like a lot of like n number of online resources and documentations that are available. But if you know this principle, then it's somewhat easy. You at least have a sort of like map how to like solve this problem.
Right. Got it. So this is very overwhelming. I hope the students do not get intimidated by all of this. So just one quick question. So we discussed about REST APIs and business logic. We discussed about database queries. We discussed about uh, uh, infrastructure like deployment, caching, server, and then some part of analytics, some overlap with analytics as well. So all of these things, is everything expected from a fresher also, or
uh
a fresher or less than 1 years of experience? What is the
no,
expectation from them? Yeah.
no, I think backend development is something that takes time. It takes like I mean, to be a very like a strong, well-seasoned backend developer, it takes at least like 5 years, I would say. But from a fresher, I mean, if you are just a fresher, I mean, you are trying to give an interview, so all these things won't be asked. I mean, the only thing you'll be asked about is like uh, data structure and algorithm. That is something which you can't skip. I think
Escape.
like, yeah, 99% of the companies ask this. There's just 1% of companies that don't feel this is necessary, but at least like 99% of the companies ask this. Okay.
Right.
Because I mean, being a fresher, you're just been in the college, you haven't worked on, I mean, some like corporate projects. You might have just worked on the minor major projects. Okay. So they they ask, I mean, the questions related to these projects, minor major projects. And then the only thing they I mean, they have to ask about is like data structure algorithm, or they can also ask about like operating system, networking related question. But I think data structure algorithm is something which, if you like sort of like invest in, it has one of the highest ROI, I would say. I mean,
Absolutely.
anything you can do
Absolutely.
just to get the best from the IT is DS algo. I mean, even if you spend 1 hour, I mean, you can't imagine how much return you're going to get in your career. It can like after 10 years also, like even if you are interviewing for Google being a 10-year experience, at least like 2 to 3 rounds, I mean, you will get DSL. So you can't basically escape it. And the irony is that the amount of data structure and algorithm, I mean, you have to study for cracking the interview. I mean, only 5 to 10% is actually like implemented. I mean, in most of the projects, some of the projects might be heavy. I mean, using it like maybe Google Map, or you're trying to like solve those map problems. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, it's very rare. I mean, those problems, at least like in the companies like I have worked with, we don't use much. I mean, only like 5% of times. Mostly we rotate
Absolutely.
upon maps, lists, arrays, sets. I mean, it's limited to this.
Absolutely. Got it. Cool. Let's take a couple of questions that some students have asked. So Pramod is asking, Sir, मुझे full stack web development में switch होना है. So any tips for him? How could Pramod approach? क्या करे वो for somebody
Okay.
who is into front end, I believe. तो वो full stack में कैसे switch होए?
Okay. So Pramod, I'm not like aware of the current state. I mean, you are in, but a general answer. I mean, for like very fresher, I would say, कि, for full stack development, JavaScript is something that you definitely need to like master. So you need to be aware of like prototypal inheritance. I mean, how the single threaded model works. What is like event loop. I mean, these
Right.
things are like important if you work both on the front end side or like you're using Node.js, right? So
Right.
Node.js is something like which will help you to transition very easily on the back end. So you can like build APIs using Node.js just, I mean, within 5 minutes. It's that easy using Express.js, okay? And you can
Right.
use this MongoDB combination. I mean, which stores the data like as a document, which is a JSON format. Okay, so things would be very easy. So I would say like you can try this flavor, which is like combination of Node.js, MongoDB, and Express.js. I'm not aware of the recent frameworks on Node.js, but it is something which I worked like 3 to 4 years back, and it's like pretty straightforward. So at least using this, you can build like end-to-end application. Okay. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and then eventually you can like start picking like other like classical object oriented language. So I mean, I think for a backend developer, at least in my opinion, you should I mean, you should learn one like classical object-oriented language that is strongly typed. Java is something which is highly recommended, because once you learn a language like Java, then you basically understand what these solid principles are, how to like design your application the best like scalable way. This
Right.
low-level design principles. I mean, you
Right.
will understand it very well, because JavaScript or like Python doesn't limits it. I mean, it's you can write your program in an imperative style, okay, the sequential manner. But if you're using C sharp or Scala or Java, okay, so you are somehow like forced to write things in an object-oriented manner, and that basically develops that low-level design skill, which I mean, which will help you in the long run, like in the career, like 8 to 10 years experience when you become an architect or you become a staff engineer, those kind of roles, and it will help you. I mean, over there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for the transition point of view, you can, I mean, start with Node.js. That's a good starting point, I'd say.
Got it. Got it. So Vaibhav asked how to become a pro in coding.
Okay. Uh, Pro in coding. So I'm not sure, like coding is a, I mean, a very abstract term, I would say. So if you want to become pro on the data structure algorithm, then I'd say practice lead code or hacker rank, hacker earth. There are a lot of platforms, Codeship and all. But I think lead code is one of the best platforms. I mean, at least for the interviews, because a lot of these companies, I mean, uh, use lead code to basically develop their interview pool of questions.
Absolutely.
They
Yeah.
quite rely on it. Uh,
Absolutely.
so yeah, I mean, if you are if you're a fresher, then I think you should develop a habit that will have I already mentioned great ROI, that you can take like one question a day, or like one question in 2 days, 3 days. You should have the flow. Okay, the flow is very important. I mean, consistency is very important. I mean, if you solve 10 problems or 20 problems in a day, that won't help much. I mean, if you solve like 20 problems over a month consistently, that will help more, because we'll develop that problem solving skill. I mean, how to approach like any kind of problem. So that is something very important. I'm becoming a pro coder. So the way where data structure algorithm helps, although like it's not used that much, is that you develop that problem solving skill, which is like very important in the IT industry. You are given a random problem from your product. I mean, if you're a product based company, then given a random problem from a product, and now you have to basically solve that problem and use the technology. I mean, okay, so there I think like before you actually write down your code, you have to solve the problem. I mean, using some flow chart, or I mean, you should have like mental model of how to solve that problem. So
Right.
that, I mean, thought process is quite well developed when you are basically good in DS algo, if you practice a lot. And the other thing is that you write a code which is very performant, space performant, time performant, because space and time is money. Okay, so I
Yeah.
mean, today we are talking about like a lot of cloud companies. Okay, like a lot of companies use AWS, GCP, Azure. Okay, so there you get the resources, I mean, in terms of like time. Okay, so like the EC2 instance, like elastic computing instance on the AWS. Okay, so it depends on number of hours. Okay, it's charged on number of hours or your CPU usage. So if you're writing an application using like 3 nested for loops versus one for loop, okay, so the nested one will have more charge. Okay, so
Right.
optimization, if you are like writing a very well optimized code, that means like you are like posing less cost to the company versus like your application very fast. Like today, a lot of
Absolutely.
OTT platforms, you won't like a platform that is very slow, always buffering, right? If something's very
Absolutely.
seamless, very smooth, then the customers will like it. Okay, so I think that is where DS algo is quite important. So you want to become a pro coder, then you should master DS algo. That will help you in the long run cracking the interviews. And the second thing is, which is rather broad, is low level design in the high level design. Okay, so I mean, for a fresher, I would say it's not that important. But if you are like somewhere in 2 to 3 years of experience, then low level design is very important. It will like come each and every day across your path, because your code, whatever you write, will be reviewed by your team members. Okay, so if you are not like very good on these design principles, then you'll get a lot of review comments. Okay, and you'll have to change your code. Okay, so it's better that you learn earlier in a career, so that I mean your code is also like easily maintainable, easy to like reuse across like different people in the team. So the second thing is definitely like solid principles, low level design. And the later part, I mean, third thing is the high level design. Okay, so you're given a problem, so how those like independent blocks, how you're going to link it, then what solution you are going to use. Okay, so like the cloud providers provide n number of different solutions, different products by AWS, which is a right fit for the application, whether it's a relational database, non-relational database. Even for the relational database, what should be your choice? So those things, I mean, come with the experience, at least like 3 4 years experience plus. So I mean, that is the high level design. Okay, I think like it's usually asked after like your 5 plus years of experience in giving the interviews. But yeah, I mean, being a pro coder is something which is like which takes a lot of time. I mean, even
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's a ever learning process, I would say.
Yes. Okay. Achyut is asking how to choose our primary skill. So you mentioned that you started with Node and then you learned Java. So what do you think? I would also like to rephrase this question. So many students have this doubt that if I that they start learning Java, then after a few months somebody tells them कि यार Python सीख लो, Python ज़्यादा अच्छा है या Python में ज़्यादा scope है. They start
Mhm.
learning Python. फिर कोई आके बोल देगा कि गोलैंग सीख लो, गोलैंग ज्यादा अच्छा है, गोलैंग में सारी कंपनीज हायर कर रही है, तो start learning Golang. So my question to you is, first of all, how should somebody choose their primary skill? And second is it actually important, especially from a fresher's perspective, to learn multiple languages like that?
Learning multiple languages won't help you. In my honest opinion, I remember few of the folks in my college. I mean, they used to say that I know 5 languages, I know like 7 languages. It doesn't matter, okay? I mean, if you have like good understanding of like one good language, okay, then I mean, learning another language is just a matter of few days, okay?
Absolutely.
So what I like to recommend is like take one like strongly typed language and get a very good hold of it. I mean, know it from the up to very depth, and then I mean you'll see that learning other languages is just a matter of few days. I mean, there are some features that are like very language agnostic. You maybe can take like few more days to learn it, but yeah, I mean it doesn't take much time. So I think the languages are like mostly like divided in few categories. One is like classical object oriented, some are like prototypical model, okay, and some are like very functional paradigm.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So learning object oriented language, I mean, that is like mostly used across the industry, so you should definitely know one like good object oriented programming language. And I
like
mean,
Java, C++,
like Java, C++, maybe C# is also
C
used.
Sharp, yes, yeah.
Yeah, and prototypal, I mean, on the front end, there is no choice, okay? So you have to learn JavaScript.
JavaScript.
Okay, and that's slightly different. I mean, you can write it in a functional style, you can write in a prototypical style, you can also write it in object-oriented style. So yeah, but uh, I mean, if you're not so much, I mean, if you just want to be a backend developer, then I would recommend like, can you start with Java?
Absolutely. And examples of functional would be like Python, ROR,
Yeah.
Golang also, I believe. Cool. Okay. So yeah, and how do we choose a primary skill? Okay, you already answered that. Cool. Abhinav is asking, what should I choose, front end or back end?
I mean, I would say it's upon your interest. Both have like great opportunities in the market, both front end and back end. I mean, front end is somewhat easy, I would say, as compared to back end, because back end has a very huge space, and front end is equally difficult. I won't say like front end is easy, because these days like everything is very dynamic. I mean, learning a framework like Angular, React, I mean, you have to the learning curve initially is huge, but I would say the entire horizon of like front end development is comparatively small as compared to back end, which is huge space. Okay, so I mean, few people like front end development because whatever you do is simply visible to you on the screen, right? Even like if you write few lines of code, okay, you have something to demo, you have something to display to people to showcase, right? So it's like very immediate feedback you get based on the code you write. As compared to backend, I mean, you'll write months of code and you just have one API to show. I mean, give this request, I'll send you this response. Okay, so that's the different. I mean, it's purely, I mean, your choice. I'm not like biased against any of it. I personally enjoy like working on both front end and back end, because like able to build like things end to end. Other than that, I would say like you should have, even like if you're a backend heavy developer or a front end heavy developer, you should have like some exposure on the other side, so that like you are able to make the best decision. Because even like if you're a full season backend developer, if you don't understand the front end, then you won't be able to build your API or contract in the best possible way the front end people can consume. Okay, they'll come to you every time. Okay, this is not working. I mean, this is not in the expected form. So in order to know your customer, I would say, who is the front end. I mean, for the backend people, mostly customers, front end people, who's using your API. So you should basically understand, I mean, what are problems they can face. Uh, yeah, I mean, backend has like tremendous opportunity. I would say each and every company there will be one backend role. I mean, any company dealing with tech, front end openings are comparatively, I would say, less. I mean, like I in the teams I have worked upon, for 10 backend developers, I find like 2 to 3 front end developers. So things are like quite backend heavy
Right.
across the industry. Yeah. So opportunity is huge on the back end. Also, I mean, the amount of learning is also quite huge. Uh, Similarly, like on the front end side, things are limited, and yeah, you get more rewards, I would say. I mean, if you master front end, then huge amount of rewards and sort of similar compensation doing, I mean, things that are comparatively easier.
Got it. Makes sense. Cool.
I hope like Vikas, you agree with whatever I said, because I think you are also a full stack developer.
Yes, I'm also full stack with front end heavy. So, but yeah,
Okay.
I agree to my what you're saying. Yeah,
Okay.
cool. So I mean it becomes as you said, it's mostly as per people's choice. So some people enjoy creating the interfaces,
Hmm.
enjoy playing with or providing a good user experience. So for them, front end is fine. Some people
Yeah.
some people enjoy creating complex business logic. They are they
Yeah.
they are curious about how and like as you mentioned, like even for a very small thing like sending a friend request to some person, or like we when I get up in the morning, like say 10 a.m., my phone is full of so many notifications. So how is even that small thing scheduled? Or like
Hmm.
we recently had a session on the low level design of Splitwise. Now Splitwise is a very common app I had been using for such a long.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
when I learned about the depth of the implementation in Splitwise, I was also in awe of it. That even a very small like it
Hmm.
from the outside it feels like it is a very small feature, but when you
Yeah.
get inside it, you realize the depth of the implementation of the
Yeah.
business logic over there.
Definitely agree. I mean, even I mean, there are a lot of like front-end heavy applications these days,
Right.
like Canva application that
Absolutely. Yeah.
you might have used. It's very, very front-end heavy. I mean, you can do a n number of things over there. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Similarly, there are like Atlassian products. I'm not sure like end users have used, but like it's similar to MS Doc. I mean, sorry, my this Google
Yeah.
Docs, Google
Right.
Docs. Okay. So yeah, it's quite complex. Google Sheets. I mean, these applications are very complex. I mean, for the companies that pay very well on the front end side are some of the like major OTT platforms like Netflix, Hotstar. Okay, because I mean everything is like quite front end heavy. Okay, so howsoever
Right.
the user experience you provide, okay, based upon that, I mean users will decide whether to stay on your platform, spend more time in platform. So yeah, a lot of applications these days are front end heavy. So, but yeah, I mean, every application I would say is back end heavy, and like few other applications are front end heavy.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Somebody is asking, Divyank is asking, which is better, backend with Node.js and Express.js or backend with Golang?
Okay. I don't have like much experience with Golang, but uh, I feel, uh, I mean, at least with Node.js, uh, it's not recommended to like use it for like very secure applications. Okay,
Hmm.
or it can be used for building like scalable application, because like it's a single threaded model. Uh, it scales very well, but I mean it's not recommended for like secure application because it's loosely typed language. Like I'm not like exactly sure about Golang. Maybe like I'm not best person to answer that, but yeah, Golang is something which is very popular, and in like my recent companies use like all across along with Java and Golang. I mean, are the preferred. I have seen like Node.js is somewhat less. used on the backend. It's just used as a middleware, okay, like a backend for front end layer, where you call n number of application microservices. You sort of like orchestrate your data and send it to the front end like this. Mostly used like as a middleware, okay. But I mean,
Got it.
complex business logics, I mean, I don't feel like Node.js is recommended as part, as part as like what companies I have worked upon, my current exposure, because the problem is that there are a lot of like open source libraries that are used for Node.js. Okay, and the way it's managed, it's somewhat like easy to inject some malicious, I mean, script if you're using like Node.js heavy application. That's why it's not recommended. A lot of things in such incidents have happened in the past. It has happened with other languages as well, but
Absolutely.
it's somewhat more common with the Node.js, I mean, community. The injection of this malicious stuff is somewhat more easier, so it's not recommended, at least like for the financial institution. I have never seen like Node.js in any financial institution. For like something which is somewhat light, not so secure, you are like okay to use Node.js. Things are very like simple. I mean, the amount of development effort, I would say, you can build an API in few days using Node.js will take, which takes like around a month in maybe like Java or something that is strongly typed.
Absolutely. Got it. Okay. Cool. Okay, let's take another question, then we'll go back to the questions I had. So Abhishek Gupta is asking, I know JavaScript and Java. What do you suggest next?
Okay, just master them. That's what I suggest. Java, I mean, something which is very huge. So yeah, I mean, it has a huge depth to it. And Durga, Durga sir, I think he's one of like holy Bible for Java. I mean, his YouTube channel. I'm not sure because like if you like follow him.
Okay, no,
Sorry.
I don't actually. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, but mastering, I mean, Java and JavaScript, I mean, your career, uh, I mean, at least like 20 years of career you can easily spend with just these two things. You don't need to
Right.
bother much. So there are a lot of things that comes along with this. So I'm not sure, like we didn't cover that entire roadmap. So maybe like in that roadmap we can discuss like along with this language, what all the other things that you need.
Yeah,
But
but
language is just one thing. I mean, just a
right.
way, I mean, to express yourself, the way like we use language, okay, to express, like communicate, but you know need to know a lot of other things, right? I mean, that daily life skills to basically survive.
Absolutely. Yes. Cool. And anyway, you have data structures, which is again an ocean of knowledge, and you have a lot to learn and practice there. So
Yeah,
apart from JS and Java, you can work on data structures and
data
algorithms.
structure algorithm anytime. I mean,
Yeah.
it will help you anytime to track the top product based companies. It's the like easiest way to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Cool, Rahul. Now again, back to the question that I had. So you already told about the demand of a backend developer. You mentioned that almost every company needs backend developers, and the ratio of backend developers in a team is also usually higher than a front-end developers. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
And which kind of companies hire for backend developer? Is it almost every company which has a tech or software development
yeah.
will need a backend developer?
Need a backend developer. Exactly.
Absolutely. Okay. Cool. Uh, okay. How important is DS algo for a backend developer? Or if somebody has to learn a new language versus master DS algo, like which one would you recommend?
Uh, I mean, at least one language you definitely need, even for the DS algo, right?
Right.
So I think like I'm not sure of the latest college curriculum, but we used to have like C. I mean, okay, as a part of curriculum, if you have Java or C++, any language, I mean, it's part of the curriculum. Just try to, learn it. I mean, in a very good way, and use it as your primary like programming language. If you are using C, or C++, then somehow like your, I mean, code is like you get an additional benefit for the time complexity because these are like low level languages. So the same code, I mean, same logic you write on a Python or Java, it takes somewhat like slightly more time to execute as compared to like C or C++. So yeah, if you're using that for DS algo, then it's good. Uh, and like along with I mean the language, I would say that you are using for programming or quantitative coding, it would be great like if you can spend some time in contributing on some open source repositories that are already there. I mean something of your interest. Okay, maybe like if you are interested in blockchain, or if you are interested in like any of the framework like Spring Boot, or anything like recent that is coming in the tech. Okay, you're
Hmm.
interested in searching, I mean, how to like do the search optimization, maybe like Elasticsearch or any like popular repositories that you're already aware of. Try to like contribute in those repositories. I mean, there are like few of the issues that are created that are for the, I mean, I would say that are easy to contribute. Few documentation changes or like very small bugs, try to contribute. So that will help you to get an exposure of how a very like big repository is managed and how a good software application is written, because those are some of the repositories that are managed by top developers, I mean, across the industry. And that will sort of give you an experience without being a part of like those companies. Okay, you anyone can contribute to open source repositories. So yeah, that is something like you can try along with this data structure algorithm, uh, okay, to
Got
become
it.
a good developer. uh, yeah.
Got
And
it.
there are few other things uh, I wanted to touch on the roadmap. So not sure, Vikas, shall I discuss it
Sure, sure. Yeah, yeah.
now or later?
Or we can discuss it like 10, 15 minutes later. Like
Okay,
I'll
okay,
also
sure.
try to write it down and share in the chat.
Okay, okay, makes sense.
Sure. Um, One more question, because you mentioned about becoming a good developer. So according to you, like what are some qualities in a person which makes them a good developer?
Uh, I think like some of the qualities are that you write something which is sort of like rock solid. Okay, so you should have like test cases around it, different scenarios plus test cases. Maybe like sort of a like very simple function, maybe like sum. Okay, so accepts two parameters. Okay, so you have to think of all the edge cases. What if like someone passes other than integer some booleans, maybe a string? Okay, how your program will behave in that scenario
Hmm.
should store the desired exception. What if someone like pass null or undefined? Okay, you should sort of like write, first of all, write the test cases around it so that your function is able to handle all the scenarios. It's sort of rock solid. Okay, so that makes you a very good developer, that you are deploying this stuff and you sort of like forget about that after, I mean, after doing the development. It shouldn't be like you write a piece of code, gets deployed, and each and every time there are some bugs, okay, people are reporting. Because we only like me as a developer, when I started, I used to write a code just thinking of the best case scenarios. Okay, so someone is only passing integers, these values, this function is returning some, it's fine.
Right.
Okay, uh, try to break your code as much as possible. Think of all the extreme cases, because those will arise when your app, when your like code or the software is actually running on the server. Okay, so unit test, the integration test, these are very important. The second thing is try to like modularize your code. Okay, so try to divide your code into small function. The beauty of it is uh, I mean, you won't have to like replicate the same logic again and again. Okay, so I mean, suppose like you are writing in a single function 50 lines of code. There's a good opportunity that I mean, a lot of things can be extracted out, will be reused again. Okay, so suppose like I mean, you are fetching a username, okay, from somewhere in your application. You are fetching his profile, his role, okay. So you have written raw code which all does all these things. It will be good to extract this out because someone else will also need it. You may also need it next time when you're writing some other business logic. Okay, extract this so that I mean your code is very modular. Any person needing it might be able to use it. So this comes from a solid principle, like single responsibility principle, that your class or your method should be like responsible for doing just
One thing.
one thing. Okay, you
Yeah.
shouldn't be doing like n number of things within your method. Okay, so if you're doing n number of things, then there's a there's a scope that you might be able to refactor it. So these are the small things that sort of distinguishes you from like beginner versus like well, like seasoned or pro developer. Other than that, uh, I mean, logging is something like you should log. Whenever you are writing the code, so certain important like business logic, the logs are important when you actually deploy your code, okay, and something goes wrong and you're not aware like what went wrong, okay, how can you debug? So if you add the logs, so like I mean, in a very like raw term, log can be as simple as system.out.println or a cout, okay, so that you are aware of what is happening. So important statements or the exceptions should be logged out, and you should have like some way of monitoring your application. Suppose you are deploying your application somewhere, just not working on a raw machine, okay, local machines, your application running somewhere. You should have a way to basically monitor. Suppose your application crashes or your code is behaving in a abnormal way, you should have a way to get notified. So there are a lot of tools in the industry for monitoring, for logging. So these are something that you will get more hands on while you are working on enterprise application. But yeah, these are some high level things.
Great. Okay. We covered a lot of stuff actually, which are not just important for freshers, but actually very important for like even for experienced people. These are very important. Great.
Yeah.
Cool. And do you think apart from technical skills, any non-technical skills that you can think of which can really help our students who are mostly freshers to
Yeah.
get better in their career?
Yeah, one thing which is very, very important is communication skills. This is something which has equal ROI, similar to data structure algorithm. This is something, which will help you grow very easily within your firm. Okay, so
Right.
even like because in the software industry, it's said that even if you don't work much, you should talk more about the work. You should be able to present more your work
Hmm.
so that people are aware. So like these days the culture is like a very remote. After COVID, not a lot of people go to office. Even companies those have like offices. People usually go like 2 to 3 days a week. That is sort of culture in most of broad-based companies that I'm aware. So you should have a way like you're able to communicate with people across team, across different geography, in a very like in a way that people are able to like understand, not misinterpret, and you're able to present your work also very effectively. So yeah, if you have like good communication skill, then the amount of growth of people who is not able to communicate effectively versus a very good communicator, easily like 2 to 3 years gap in their career we will see, just based upon this skill.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. In fact, at Geekster also we have realized this. That's why we like have a soft skill session every 2 weeks here. And there is a professional instructor coming in who has these classes for students. So absolutely, I
Yeah,
think, yeah,
must need, I would say, must need. Because
absolutely.
in most of the MNCs, you will deal with people from different geographies,
Right.
and there it becomes somewhat difficult to interact, because even like if you're talking with people in just India location, it's comparatively much more easier because it's our native language.
Right.
At least for the north part of India.
Hmm.
But yeah, it becomes quite challenging because I recently have faced challenge while communicating with people from like China or from Japan. The accent is very difficult, and in order to like you're communicating with people across different geographies, so talk in a way that everyone is able to understand this. None of the sentiments are also hurted. You also get to know the culture. I mean,
Yeah,
while you are communicating, actually knowing your audience, how we
absolutely.
communicate.
Absolutely. Okay. Kiran is asking, Angular, React, or Vue, which is best for a fresher?
React is more popular, I'd say these days.
Right.
More industry adoption. So
The-
I think React would be the best to win. Angular is I think like Angular has like 30% usage across industry. React has like 65% and 5% is Vue. That's
Right.
I mean my perception. I'm not sure, Vikas, if you have some other.
No. I had a similar. I saw similar results also. I had actually looked into this on GitHub and all. So yeah, React is definitely much more popular. But just having said that, like honestly, it does not really matter if
Yeah,
you are
yeah.
anybody's an expert in any view. It won't.
JavaScript.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's ultimately thanks to
JavaScript only.
JavaScript.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it won't take much time to learn any framework. Same
Yeah,
with yeah.
yeah. It hardly takes like few weeks. So React is something very like easy to very like less learning curve. Angular, on the
Absolutely.
other hand, takes somewhat more time, like 2 to 3 weeks it can take. Vue is like just a mixture of like both. So
Absolutely. Okay. Uh, okay. Dinesh is asking, sir, how do we know if it is the right time to start learning a framework? As a fresher, is it required to master a framework? And he's specifically asking about Spring in Java.
uh, I, so if you talk about like Java enterprise application, then almost every application uses a framework. So framework does a lot of things out of the box, which you will have to invent it. Okay, so like in an application, you'll have to talk to the database. Okay, so Spring like provides the Hibernate, which makes it very easy to interact with the database. Okay, uh, then there are like n number of different things. I mean, you have to like convert the JSON to the Java objects. Okay, and do the vice versa. So Spring like internally helps with it. So there are a number of things which these frameworks solve the problem out of the box. So knowing a framework like in addition to language, a framework is somewhat important. But considering you are a fresher, you don't need to know this. I mean, as like we discussed in the past, if you know the language very well, then learning a framework becomes like quite easy. I mean, it's not that challenging to learn. But like if you are a person having like 4 to 5 years of experience and you're already like worked on enterprise application and you're like Java is a primary language, or say PHP is a primary language, any like primary language, then you should be expected to at least like know one framework quite well. Okay, understand
Absolutely.
like have with the fact that you have the experience on that. Like for PHP, Laravel is used.
Laravel. Yeah, Laravel is.
Laravel,
Yeah.
yeah. For C Sharp, like ASP.NET is quite popular. Node.js Express. For Java, Spring was earlier. Now it's like Spring Boot, which is used. The new frameworks also with, like Drop Wizard. Then there is Vertex. So a lot of these frameworks are used.
Right.
So yeah, I mean those are something which can be acquired. I mean, which you can learn with time. I mean, it's
Right.
not expected by the fresher. So the freshers are usually, I mean, tested on data structure algorithm and whatever your projects are, existing projects are. That's it. I mean, you're not expected, I mean, to be like uh, to know any other skill, I'd say.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, I think frameworks are important in because they save a lot of your development time and your learning curve becomes much faster. You can focus on a lot of other complicated things rather than doing all of these basic things. So I totally agree. And yeah, as you said, like if you especially want to use Java in backend web development or mobile development, I think Spring is a good framework to start with. Totally agree.
Yeah,
Similarly, in Python, again, like Django is super popular.
Django. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Uh, okay, somebody's asking, is there any scope of PHP?
Say no longer. PHP is almost dead.
Yeah.
uh, I mean, only like in my experience, if you are working on very like legacy projects, they might be using PHP. Or if you are working on WordPress and all, I mean, some content management, I mean, sites, or you are working on freelancing, I mean, lot of like projects, you still use PHP because a lot of these things use like WordPress and some of the frameworks. I think WooCommerce and there's some other like open source frameworks
Yeah,
for
Magento, Shopify, the most
Magento,
famous. Yeah.
Shopify. Yeah, these
Yeah.
are things like which are powered by PHP. But I mean, in the MNCs, it's quite rare now, I'd say.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even if there is PHP, then mostly it is they're using Laravel or CodeIgniter, some framework only.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, if you have knowledge of PHP, then you can like easily acquire a skill
Yeah.
like Java or something. Because I've seen like PHP developer easily migrated to Java
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
underlying concepts are like mostly same.
Yes. 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 Absolutely. Cool. Okay. So Rahul is asking, I have completed my engineering, but I don't know anything about programming. What should I do? So in context to this question only, uh, what we can do is we can talk about our backend developer roadmap, complete roadmap in detail
Okay.
and from the beginning. So let's assume that we have people who don't have any experience as a programmer. Okay,
Okay.
so let's start from the scratch. Like, how should they start from, let's say, computer fundamentals, programming fundamentals, data structures? What all do you think?
Okay. So I think if you didn't had like majors on the computer science, which I also actually didn't had from electronics communication background. So something which are like very essential is like knowing the operating system. Okay. So
Mhm.
operating system, I mean, gives you the idea of like internals of the any machine that you will be working upon. Okay, on which like your code is working. So operating system that you should know. So you'll know about processes, the threads, the concurrency. Okay, all these things. Then
Mhm.
I think like API development is somewhat I mentioned it's common across the industry, so it's very easy. I mean to get a job using like and by learning API development. So you should know like how about HTTP protocol. Okay, like what is DNS, how the DNS resolution works, all these like basic things. Uh, the CRUD operations. I mean, so like suppose like we're storing name in the database, the user names in the database. So uh, we'll need like we'll need to like create, update, delete, or like add that resource like in the database. So we'll need like these APIs. So what are different like CRUD operations? How can we build HTTP API using it? Okay, then once like you know how to build this HTTP, so there the framework comes into picture. I mean, you can also build these APIs using a in a very raw way. With the framework, I mean, becomes quite easy. I mean, but just for the sake of trying out, you can maybe start without using any framework. Okay, because that will like save the complexity. Then basic understanding of database, I would say any like SQL based database you can pick up, like MySQL or something. Okay, so that will at least get you started. You can try building a simple software, uh, maybe a say a library management. Okay, just building the APIs for managing a library. Okay, or you can take example of any other problem. Okay, that you are trying to solve. Just try to build APIs for it using any database. So that will basically give you a lot of understanding of like how this backend works. Okay,
Right.
then you can try creating a repository where you're actually committing your code. So there, the version control system comes into picture, the GitHub. Okay, so you
Right.
can try creating a GitHub repository where you're actually checking in your code. So you are I mean, if you're a software developer, then this will definitely come into your way. So you should, I mean, invest some time to learn about GitHub. Oh, okay. Uh, yeah, and other than that, I mean, the data structure algorithm. I mean, if you just want to get started, then you can basically learn about some common, some common like data structures, like arrays, okay, list, and maybe sets, the map, the hash map. Okay, if you're like preparing for like some more top product based companies, then you can maybe like touch the trees, the graphs, all those things. And on the algorithm side, all the sorting algorithm, the searching algorithm, okay, and the different algorithms on top of strings. These are something that you can you can learn. I mean, these are like mostly asked in the interview questions. uh, yeah, I think that's it for the fresher. So if you are like already having like 2 to 3 years of experience, then maybe the things that you should learn about is like authentication. Because if you're building any API, you will need to authenticate your users, right? Like if you log into Netflix or like Amazon Prime, you have your account where you enter your user ID password, right? So how this authentication works. So there are different ways of doing the authentication: OAuth, JWT based authentication, SAML based authentication. Then you may invest some time learning about it. I mean, it usually comes with the experience, because I myself was given the projects where I had to implement this. Then that's how like I learned about this. Then there's authorization. Authorization is like different users having different access. Suppose like you are having a Netflix account, okay, and you are creating basically a kid account, okay, a child account who is not able to like access certain resources, right? So that user will only have the access for certain resources, not like the full library of content which is available on Netflix. So different users having different access. So there the authorization or role-based access control comes into picture. Then one thing which I mentioned is like solid principles. Okay, so there are like 5 principles that you need to know about. So there are some good books about it. One is like Clean Code, Clean Architecture by Robert Martin. So clean architecture is something which is highly recommended. Then maybe you can also get some books on design pattern. This is also like,
sorry, can you repeat the name of the book?
it's a clean architecture. Clean code. There are 2 versions. Clean code. The other is clean architecture by Robert Martin.
Okay, cool.
You can get on Amazon. So these are like very good reads about like how to write a code which is like very clean, scalable. How to like uh, apply these solid principles. Okay. Then you can like invest some time learning about the design patterns. These are definitely something like which will be needed when you are 3+ years experience, not expected from the fresher. Okay. If you want to like grow in your career, then I mean these things will help you out. So design pattern, like this head first, I mean design pattern book, and there's other version of this original version, which is Gang of Four design pattern. Gang of Four design pattern book is somewhat like difficult to read. I mean, it's not an easy language. The examples are somewhat complicated, at least for me. So you can use a head first, which is a very visual way of like knowing the design pattern, which will help you a lot, I mean, for a seasoned backend developer. Okay. Then in addition to it, then you will come, things will come on the system design. Okay. So there are a lot of channels, I mean, on YouTube that you can follow. One is like definitely Gaurav Sen. He has good videos on the system design. So you should know about like how to horizontally scale a system, vertically scale a system. Let's just imagine like of this Hotstar platform. Okay, so
Right.
when they are like cricket matches or like some important matches like India Pakistan match, suddenly the traffic is spikes from just few thousand to few millions, right? Right, even like it can reach to billions. Okay, so how to like build a system that is able to scale well. So there you will have to learn about the containerization of the application. Okay, like the Dockers and how to manage, I mean, these containers. So a lot of industries these days are using Kubernetes for managing these containers. So with there, what happens is your application is scaling up when the traffic goes up, and when the traffic goes down, this your application is scaling down. Okay, so suppose like you're running your application on just two machines, but when a lot of traffic comes, your machine is not able to handle. Suddenly, like you have to scale up to like 10 machines, 20 machines. So how the scale up, scale down happens. So these are like some advanced things, and this somewhat like DevOps heavy, but at times, I mean, if you're writing the code, so you should build it in a way that's able to scale up, scale down. So for that sake, you need to know like how to containerize your application. Okay, so Docker, Kubernetes, these things, how to like vertically scale the system, horizontally scale the system. These things you should know about. Then the cloud providers, you should have like some visibility on the cloud providers. I think you might already have heard about like AWS, GCP, Azure, these platform. Okay, so what are the different offerings of this platform? So cloud is basically like it provides fully managed resources, and they charge this based upon your usage. Okay, so suppose like I want to run my application and I don't have my own machine. Okay. I can't keep my laptop running 24 hours, right? So I need a dedicated machine. So I buy a machine for myself, which might be more costly for me. I can simply go to this cloud providers and I say that I want this operating system, say Linux operating system, these specification, maybe like 8 GB RAM, something, they will provide me this instance and I can run my application. And whenever I want to scale up, okay, based on my application, I can scale up, scale down. So these cloud providers, I mean, they provide a number of offerings for that, for like hosting a database, for doing like searching, for hosting these containers, okay, just raw VMs, all those things. So you should have like some like exposure on all these cloud providers and the offerings, because this will be needed when you're actually like designing the application. Okay, you are like building any application, so you will need to get these resources from the cloud providers. Okay, then yeah, I think I already mentioned about like OS, the DNS. Yeah, so you should know basic like terminal commands. So for most of the enterprise application, like Linux OS is used, Linux operating system. So you should know about like basic Linux commands so that you can, you can easily, I mean, whenever you log into those machines, then you can easily play around and start your application, do some sort of debugging, see the logs, all those things. uh, okay, and then the frameworks we already discussed. Then once you like write your application, unit testing and integration testing, these are very important these days. So there are certain like frameworks that are like available for each and every language. Like for Java, JUnit is available. Okay, so and like for JavaScript, like this Jest, this Mocha, this Karma JS. So each and every language has its testing framework. So basically what it does is it tests your code with different scenarios. You wrote a function, then different test cases to basically able to run it. That is like unit test, testing your function. And there's integration test. Integration test is basically running your application, okay, with all those resources. Suppose your application is talking to database, it's talking to Kafka, or talking to n number of different like products. Then basically it spawns them, and basically your application interacts with them. It's testing all those behavior end to end. So those are integration tests. So I think, I mean, at least in the like product-based companies, writing the test case is very important. Then only you'll be able to check in your code and be able to deploy it. So
Right.
yeah, those are things which are important. And then as a part of like SDLC process, so we usually work with some ticketing system, maybe Trello dashboard or Jira. So the task is created over there. Then you start with some design or application documentation of like how you'll be writing your application. Okay, then you once like you get your design like reviewed with your team members or something, I mean, then you start developing your code. Then you commit it on the GitHub, get reviewed by the team members. And once you commit it, then the deployment process starts. So there's CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment, that as soon as like you commit your code on GitHub, the things start getting deployed. Okay, so there are different environments. I mean, in the companies, like dev environment, stage environment, and production environment. So like as soon as like you check in your code, the things don't immediately go to production, right? Because suppose like you are writing a very business critical application, like say you're writing things in a Google or Facebook, okay? So might be your code will have bug, or there'll be a lot of dependencies that you want to test out. So there are different environments created for that sake. So things go to development, and that is like automated as soon as you merge. So with the help of CI/CD tools like Jenkins and all the things are automated, go to dev, you do the
Right.
round of testing, then there's a particular SDLC process that things are like tested, maybe like by you. I mean, these days there's less, I mean, QA culture in the companies. In a lot of companies, there's still like QA people who actually test your code. They give you a sign off, then only you're able to reach to production. But I have seen a recent trend that number of QAs have reduced, and it's more upon the developer themselves to own this testing. So you'll have to test out your code, okay, and then everything works fine. Then there's a process through which you'll release your code to the production. Okay,
Right.
yeah,
Cool.
I
Just a
think
minute. Yeah.
that those are the few things. Then there can be like A/B testing things. Okay, and like you want to launch few things for one user segment and few things for the other user segment, like the same application has to behave in two ways. So for that, say like you do A/B testing. I mean, you write the code in such a way, that a user is requesting your application behave this way, otherwise the other way. So we used some tools like Launch Darkly for it, and some other like A/B testing tools over there. Then you basically have to monitor your tool, right? So monitoring is something which is very important. I mean, the telemetry of the application, how your application is performing all the time. You have the proper health checks. Applications getting down, you're properly alerted on top of it. Okay, because there are some applications which are very business critical and can't afford to go down at least like for few minutes. I mean, they need to be up and running 24 into 7. So you basically set up monitoring and alerting on top of it. So these all things come under the backend spectrum. But I think, as I mentioned, just for the sake of fresher, I would say if you are good in TS algo and you know like basic API development, basic like low level design principle, that is good enough to get started. And other things will come eventually down the line in your like further like 5 6 years experience.
Great. Got it. Cool. Um, for everybody listening to Rahul, listening to our conversation, we have mentioned almost everything that he has mentioned. We have added that in the YouTube chat. You can directly copy paste from there, or you can take a screenshot of the same thing. Okay. Cool. Great. So mostly we have completed the roadmap, and Rahul, this was, thanks a lot. This was very, very elaborate. I don't remember any of the other guests like talking about these things in such an elaborate way, especially for experienced candidates. Also, this will be very, very good, very helpful. Cool. Rahul, I just need a couple of minutes. I want to talk about Geekster, for especially for people who are new to our sessions. So everybody, if you like our sessions and if you want to be a part of Geekster, then you can just go to www.geekster.in. Cool, and you can get all the details of Geekster here. So at Geekster, we basically help you build your dream career in technology. You get trained by top industry expert who are themselves working as software developers in one of the top product-based companies. Our students have been hired by 400 plus companies so far. We have a placement rate of 92%. Our average salary has been close to 7.5 LPA, and our highest salary so far has been 21 LPA. But I am very, very sure that one of you is going to break that. This is a list of some of the companies which hire from us. And this is a very, very small set of them. There are a lot of companies. It is a mix of product-based, services-based, startups, MNCs, all such kinds of companies. Also, most importantly, you can get to know about the mentors who are here. Some of the mentors and their profiles are already here. Okay. Also, another thing is you can click here, on the full stack web development tab. So there are two things that we have. One is the code school and one is the full stack web development. So you can go and see all these two things. So if you go to full stack web development, basically you get all the details of the full stack web development program, which is our main program where we help our students become full stack developers. Okay, we expect you would have a 2 hour of class every day, and then there would be a doubt class every day, and then we expect about 2 to 3 hours of commitment from your side for self-study. The duration of the course can be from anywhere from 3 months to 8 months. It depends on you, what all subjects you choose. So we have divided it into different batches, different courses. Okay. Usually the timings are also given here. And the next batch starts on 20th December. So if you want to register, you should register very soon. Now, what do we do exactly in the course? So you have live online classes. You also have a soft skills training. You get personal mentors assigned to you. Now, the live online classes and the personal mentors, both are people who are actually working in the industry. Okay, so they have a good technical background. Okay. Also, we take mock interviews with you and we help you in interview preparation. And then not only this, we also refer you to top companies and help you get a good job. Okay. All the details of our course are here. What all subjects do we teach? What are the 3 categories? How much time does it take? Everything is mentioned over here. Who are your educators and mentors? Okay. And almost all the details of the course, again, you can get here. Also, you have 2 ways to pay for it. This entire course is a sort of a placement guarantee course. So you have to pay no fees unless you get a placement of minimum 5 lakhs per annum. So basically the total fee is 2 lakh rupees if you pay after placement. And you can also pay upfront. So in that case, the total fees is less than 50%. It's only 75,000. But even if you pay upfront, we give you 100% money back guarantee. You get all the details of the courses here. And we have a code school. Basically, we have something called a code school also. So we are starting this pretty soon, where we are starting different courses. Okay, different small courses like data structures. Okay, so we are starting for data structures right now, but there are many more courses which you will get over here. Okay, so please go to geekster.in and you can get all the details about our courses here. Cool. Great. Yeah. Okay. So coming back, Rahul, again, thanks a lot for answering all these questions for our students. Any final parting words, anything that you want to add, so that our students can get benefited from it?
Yeah, sure. So I would say that software engineering is, I mean, not only restricted to getting, placed in an MNC. So I think it said that software engineering is a mix of being an artist and an engineer. This was said by Bill Gates. So if you know programming, software engineering as a skill, okay, so it will help you in every parts of your life. You can build, create products. You can also build things out of your hobbies. The opportunities are huge. Okay, so you can build some very fascinating, interesting games. Okay, this is an opportunity that you can automate what all you're already doing for your daily setup. I think you can watch some interesting videos on from Mark Zuckerberg, how he has automated his daily stuff. Okay, then there are other opportunities to basically earn. Through this skill, you can do freelancing. There are a lot of websites like Upwork, Fiverr. Okay, that part time you can do freelancing. You can simply create some interesting products and become an entrepreneur. If you see some popular apps or some popular products that are out there, like WhatsApp, Telegram, Snapchat. I mean, these were built by just few developers. Okay,
Right.
so if you have some interesting idea, I mean, there is no upfront cost for you that you'll have to pay. Because I remember that I was like in the electronics competition, just to build a simple project, I had to like buy a lot of stuff, these embedded systems, and then somewhat had to be started. You just need a laptop for this, right? And a lot of cloud provider provide like a lot of credits and free resources, like at least for a year. So if you have an interesting idea in your mind, then upfront you can start working on some product and you can start monetizing it. You can also like write some blogs, try monetization with the help of ads. So there are like n number of opportunities. I mean, if you know programming, then the like opportunities are like tremendous. So I would say like all the best. I mean, and if you are a software engineer, then this skill is life skill. I would say it will, I mean, help you in every like aspect of your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great. Thanks, Rahul. Thanks again for taking out time and speaking to us, sharing all your knowledge, all your wisdom, all your experience with us. I'm sure the students have got to learn a lot from you during this session. And thanks a lot for all our viewers, also all the students who have been attending this session, who have asked this question. I hope that this session was good for you. You got to learn a lot. Okay. And we will we'll have another similar session very soon. Most likely next week. Cool. Cool. Thanks again, everyone. Thank you for joining. Thanks again, Rahul. Have a good weekend. Take care.